And we're here with the awesome, the fantastic, the incredible...
Ooh, who are you talking about?
Oh, where'd you come from? No, it's Mr. Lobo. Mr. Lobo, how are you?
I am here.
Excellent, excellent. And are you having a good time at the convention?
Yes, I'm having an excellent time. This is Sunday. This is when you get to see what everyone looks like hungover. And, that's always interesting.
Excellent, excellent. And what were your thoughts on the roast? How did that make you feel?
It made me feel very sorry for the audience, mostly. When you have a roast done by horror hosts, it's not a very well planned affair. So you have, I think they just found a chair in the back alley and dragged it up on stage, and half of them they had to drag out of the bar to get up on stage to say their remarks, and nobody had any prepared material. And when it came time to do my rebuttal, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. I kind of want to just give them all a hug. I really just felt sorry for those guys. They were no one knew what was going on, and that's how we like it. Microphones didn't work, but it was nice to be. It was funny because after the show, Borloff says, "I just couldn't think of anything bad to say about you. I love you, man. You're a great guy." So Carlos Borloff is a horror host. He's just like the rest of us. He just needs a little bit more attention.
And by the way, you gave a touching tribute at the Horror Host Hall of Fame. I was in the audience myself. I had tears in my eyes. It was phenomenal. I mean, give me your thoughts on that.
Count Gore Duvall was inducted with the original 13 inductees, the Horror Host Hall of Fame, which is going to be, I believe, curated by Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum. And so, Count Gore is being put among Zachary and Vampira and Sammy Terry and some of the great all-time horror hosts. And then I was given the task to present it to him, and I felt I wasn't worthy to do that. Count Gore Duvall, he was 3,000 miles away from my home base in California. I really felt it should have been someone who had grown up watching his show or whatever. So after I did my remarks about Count Gore and how important he was, because he is very important, because he's the missing link.
Right.
He's the link between the old and the new, because Count Gore is still doing his show today,
right, and
doing it on the internet. He's the guy interviewing the independent film directors and showing the public domain movies, and he's been doing that since on the internet since 1999.
Right.
And we're all following that model. That's the modern model.
Exactly.
And plus he was on the air from 73 to 87 on a local TV station. So he's done it. He did it the old school way, and he's doing it the new school way.
Right.
So he's a very, very important host, and it was such an honor to give it to him, or did not give it to him, because I gave it to Borloff to give to him, because even though Borloff acts like a 12-year-old child all the time, Carlos Borloff turns into a 10-year-old kid when he's in the presence of his master and his horror host when he was growing up.
Yeah.
Which is Count Gore Duvall.
Yeah. Well, that's great. One other thing too, I wanted to just talk to you real quick about. We have on our website on Horror Haven is a tribute to Boston. It's called Boston Horror Memories, and we talk about Creature Double Feature and the history of it. You told me an interesting fact about the Creature Feature shows last night. Can you share that with the viewing audience?
Absolutely. There's a lot of talk, especially with the older generation of monster kids, about the shock package and the importance of the shock package. We hear about Zachary and Vampira and the Ghoul and the Ghoulardi rather, and all those guys who had, and there was dozens of shows across the country called Shock Theater. And why were they all called Shock Theater? Because there was the shock package. Television stations bought a package of films called Shock. And in that package were some directives, like you may want to have a host, you may want to pick the weather guy or some guy from local theater to put on a bad Dracula cape and introduce the movie. And so that started that wave because the stations had those great films to show,
right,
and they needed a way to market them to an audience. Well, in the 70s, I grew up with Creature Features with Bob Wilkins, who was my host in California. And as I'm interviewing Count Gore for the magazine, I realized that Count Gore's show was called Creature Feature, and he was showing the same movies that Bob was showing in Washington, D.C. And then, of course, in Boston, you have Creature Double Feature. And then in Chicago, you have Creature Features also. These were all part, Bob had told me, and I had totally slipped my mind, because I didn't really understand what film packages were, is that they bought a film package in the 70s, excuse me, just doing an interview, nothing important, called Creature Feature. So the package was called Creature Feature. We all shared those movies, so we were all watching the same show, really.
Right.
Only
right.
With different hosts.
Right.
And so in the Creature Feature, see, Gory Ray screwed me up now. I can't even. So anyway, so the discovery is that we have the 70s and 80s were the era of creature features.
Right.
And that was that. I guess that was the discovery is that there was another movie package in the 70s. No one ever really talks about it.
Right.
But also important because where would we be without creature features?
Right, exactly, and that's the big thing. Like you said, we all kind of grew up watching the same thing. All right, well, for the last thing, why don't you give us a quick plug of what you're about Cinema Insomnia, your show, and you got this cool magazine going on. What do you got going on?
I'll do quick. This is. All right, here's Mr. Lobo here with the host of Creature. This is the host. This is me, host of Cinema Insomnia, host of Creature Features, Bob Wilkins. This is an episode of Cinema Insomnia that we did together in 2002.
That's great.
And I have 25 other titles, hosting the same damn movies that you've seen here. And this is my new magazine. My partner in slime, Dixie Delamorto, and I have put out a magazine just about horror hosts. It's called Horror Hosts and Creature Features. It's a kind of a trade magazine for professional creeps, but it's also a lifestyle magazine for fans. And there's pinups, there's recipes, there's all kinds of things, the tips from other horror hosts. There's an interview with the widow of Al Lewis, who was Grandpa Munster.
Right.
Grandpa Munster, you think, okay, he's from the Munsters. Why is he on Horror Host magazine? Well, he was a horror host on TBS for cable in the 80s. He was a horror host longer than he was Grandpa Munster on the Munsters. He was only Grandpa Munsters for 2 seasons. So people for like 4 years watched him, and the 28-year-olds watched him on cable. So that was their childhood memory of a horror host. In fact, when my distributor is of that generation, and when he picked up my DVDs, he said, "Oh, you're doing a Grandpa Munster kind of thing." Okay. So we got a great interview on him and about him and his life. Karen's writing a wonderful book, so she talks about that. We talked to Count Gordeval, which is where we did the discovery of the Creature Features package. Right. And we talk about Shock Theater, 2 Shock Theaters. Shock Theater with the late, great Dr. Creep, who was also inducted into the Horror Host Hall of Fame, and also Bowman Body, who they're doing a new documentary about. Right. His show was called Shock Theater also. So Creature Features are still with us. They're still alive, and we have the discovery of a new genre. Because when we were growing up, it was just about us and our show and our host, and it was a personal kind of connection. We didn't think about anybody else. Right. Today we got zombies, we got vampires, we got horror hosts. It's really a discovery of a new genre. There are fans who are just general horror host fans. And so it's kind of a new scene. It's an exciting scene, and hopefully there's 20 people out there in the world who want to read about it.
That's great. Well, can you just give us a real quick, hey, this is Mr. Lobo, and you're watching the Fright Channel?
Sure. This is Mr. Lobo, and you're watching the Fright Channel. Or are you?